shattered overnight, releasing walls of rain that drowned entire towns across central and southern China. Torrents roared down valley slopes, racing into villages in Hubei, Guizhou, Henan, Guangxi. Each province left reeling. Rivers surged beyond their banks, sweeping away cars as though they were leaves, crashing through walls, uprooting trees, swallowing streets. In the early hours, floodwaters rose so unexpectedly that entire families fled their homes in darkness, carrying only what they could clutch, children cradled in arms, grandparents clutching memories in small bundles. In Guizhou's Rongjiang County, monsoon-fed rivers reached once-in-50-year heights, collapsing bridges along the Xiarong Expressway and carving landslides into night-black hillsides, turning highways into nightmares of twisted metal and shattered dreams. Downstream, Guangxi's rural farmlands lay submerged, the veins of irrigation canals drowned under opaque brown sludge. These were not isolated incidents. They were symptoms of a climate relentlessly shifting. In Xianfeng, Hubei, more than a month's worth of rain funneled down in just 12 hours, over 350 millimeters, drenching 300,000 residents in one devastating night. Entire ground floors were underwater. 11,000 tons of mud blanketed narrow streets. Buses sat half submerged. Schools closed. Power and water systems failed. By morning, over 18,000 people had been moved to safety. Authorities activated their highest emergency protocols as the deluge exposed vulnerabilities pulsing beneath urban facades. Further north, Henan province endured 220 millimeters of rain in a single 3-hour storm. 3 lives lost, 5 known missing as waterways burst banks without warning. Evacuations became urgent. Authorities issued the first ever red flood alert this season, spanning Anhui, Henan, Hubei, Hunan, Guizhou, Guangxi.
Rongjiang, Linh Dê Đông Mai, Giao Tháp Bế Bết,
By late June, global supply chains began trembling. A pre-wave situation report warned that mining, raw materials production, and vital intermediate goods could falter for weeks as flooding damaged infrastructure and shut down hydrogrids. Coastal ports remained functioning, but interior arteries, bridges, power stations, highways lay crippled. On the national radar, Chinese media confirmed at least 9 fatalities across these core flood zones. But truth knows no bounds. Unreported tragedies and missing persons pepper the mountains where roads were washed into rivers. landslide alarms persisted in sediment-saturated slopes, cutting off remote villages still waiting for relief.
平川县城廊桥地段由于山洪爆发。
Meanwhile, on Henan Island, tropical storm Wutip had churned the South China Sea. Its heavy rains and explosive waves knocked out coastal defenses, bringing deadly landslides in Luchuan, Guangxi. Thousands had to abandon construction works and fishing villages as roaring seas overturned boats, toppled trees, collapsed bridges, and cut power lines across southern coastal counties.
看河面上的小石子，刮了手。
And all this has been unfolding while Asia is warming at nearly twice the global average. The World Meteorological Organization confirmed heat waves, floods, and droughts are intensifying, becoming the new normal. 2024 ranked among the top 2 warmest years on record. Sea surface temperatures hit unprecedented highs. Glaciers receded, and rain extremes, like those now witnessed in China, were occurring more frequently and ferociously.
楼上啊，又是一年的大水啊，10多年的第一次大水，那不晓得干的没得的哇。
我靠，这什么情况啊？这是。
Globally, the toll has been staggering. Nearly $550 billion in water-related disaster losses last year. At least 8,700 lives lost and more than 40 million people uprooted. These extreme rain events shattered monthly and daily records. 27% more monthly extremes than in 2000. 52% more daily records. Southern China, alongside Bangladesh, Brazil, Central Europe, suffered repeated flood blows.
我的妈呀！看这水小。
多少块钱吃得紧啊，或者？
贵的9万，第2次9万的。
According to UN and WMO analysis, this is no mere weather variation. It is climate change in motion, altering the water cycle worldwide. Where once floods and droughts were cyclical, they've begun to overlap, ricocheting across geographies and seasons, amplifying each other to unprecedented ferocity. Back on the ground, the tape of heroism is human and raw. One rescuer described rowing through gushing streets, passing terrified faces behind dripping windows, children waving from second-story balconies. Villagers fashioned makeshift rafts, ramshackle planks and life jackets, to ferry stranded elders across raging creeks. Neighbors shared what little they had: blankets, rice, boiled water, and human chains formed to pass buckets, tools, medication. Emergency crews circulated lists of evacuees to reassure families amid fractured cell signals. Slow helicopters lowered nets under smearing skies.
朋友们，我现在所在的位置是三直线蔡家坪加油站这里，你看，这条。
Without those homes, we'd be lost, said an elderly farmer in a mud-streaked courtyard in Guizhou, her voice tight as she hugged a borrowed blanket. But we still have each other. Still, the scale of damage overshadowed every rescue. Thousands of homes flooded beyond repair. Vehicles became tangled wreckage, pillars of steel amid rust-brown water. Major highways were rendered impassable. One collapse cost more in logistics alone than whole villages could rebuild. Commerce paused as coal shipments stopped flowing. Iron ore stayed in stockpiles. A blow to Chinese industrial resilience sent tremors through ocean-crossing supply chains.
看着西藏城的水大不大？你看，看都按照腰杆量看。那是我们响应国家号召，看到没？我们搬到西藏城了。
Farmers are tallying losses. Rice paddies drowned in stagnant mud. Vegetables rotting in submerged fields. Post-monsoon harvest cycles disrupted. The economic and nutritional impacts will echo through the seasons. Entire harvests may fail. With inflation edging upward, disrupted transport now threatens food supply beyond local boundaries. Amid the crisis, officials and international agencies are sounding the alarm. This is not a one-off. It is a preview of a seasonal reality, one that demands transformation in flood management, early warning systems, and climate adaptation. The UN, the WMO, and China's government are stressing the need for green infrastructure, room for rivers, strengthened levees, reforestation, restored wetlands. Reanalysis indicates that early warning systems, like those piloted in Nepal, saved countless lives, enabling preemptive evacuations and reducing casualties. During a state council session, senior officials acknowledged that the flood season now begins earlier. The monsoon arrived ahead of schedule, and increasing sea surface temperatures are spawning stronger storms and immediate flash floods. The Chinese government has pledged emergency social support for affected families, expanding livelihood subsidies and medical coverage, measures reminiscent of flood response strategies enacted in Hubei and in global markets. Economists are recalibrating risk. Aon's recent analysis recorded $368 billion in global economic losses from natural disasters in 2024, nearly half concentrated in the Asia-Pacific region. Flooding, more than any other peril, led the charge in Asia, eroding assets, disrupting supply chains, and burdening public finance with reconstruction costs.
Quítense porque está subiendo más para acá.
The human cost is stark. Tens of thousands have been displaced. Some shelters are congested, children with red-rimmed eyes huddled on cots, mothers holding infants in damp blankets. Rural elders patch shelters with tarps, praying the next downpour holds off long enough for floodwaters to fully recede. The psychological wounds are deep. Ahead lies the long winter. Landslide risk continues in mud-slicked hills. Infrastructure repair will stretch through the summer and autumn, reinstating electric grids, stabilizing roads, ensuring safe drinking water. All demand time and resources. As one local leader put it, we must rebuild not just what was broken, but stronger. This is no ordinary recovery mission. It's a turning point. Rebuilding now means integrating resilience at every level. Floodplains restored, forest revived, forecasting sharpened, early warning networked with evacuation logistics. China's National Disaster Reduction Center has scheduled flood drills in vulnerable counties. Urban planners are drafting climate risk adjustments into new housing projects. Community-based groups are planting trees to reduce runoff and reinforce slopes. Still, questions linger. Can funding keep pace? Will international cooperation intensify? Will supply chain management equip companies to adapt to these disruptions? The answers will determine whether this flood season becomes a rehearsal or a transformation. For millions, these floods will remain a haunting collective memory of fear, loss, unity, and hope. In mud-smelling shelters, people whisper about rebuilding stronger, better, together. The water has receded, but a new resolve rises.